What's up, guys? Today I'll be teaching you guys how to shoot and edit like Brandon Woelfel today. Before I start with this, I want to preface this by saying that this is not meant at all in any way to copy Brandon Woelfel exactly. This is to learn the skills that he uses and put them into your own work to improve yourself, not to make the exact copy of a picture. The point of this is to learn the concepts that he uses and then apply it to your own work so that you can better yourself, not to steal ideas from other people. Today I'll be setting up how to set up, shoot, and actually enact how Brandon Woelfel does his photography on the physical aspect. And then also on the digital side, I'm going to be explaining how he edits his photos. I'm going to be using Lightroom and Photoshop for two separate photos. One is going to be the more neon looks that he uses, and the second one is going to be more of a floral theme, and that's going to be how he does a lot of his more nature shoots. If you want to just skip ahead to the edits, I'll put a link here or here somewhere to let you skip to that point by yourself. So in order to set up like Brandon Woelfel, you got to learn about how he does his photography on the physical side. A lot of people know him as the guy who started doing neon signs and fairy lights in his photos. And he did start out like that, and I think that's where he got a lot of his followings. It was more unique at the time. But he has become more than that, and I've seen him do work in all kinds of fields, including landscape, pets, couples, portraits. He's done a lot of cool stuff I've seen. I've been watching him for a while, and I've learned a lot of concepts from him that I've applied to other stuff. The first step to learning to shoot like Brandon Woelfel is to get the setup correctly. A lot of times Brandon Woelfel will use props in order to enhance his photos. So these props can really put more focus on the subject, or it can make it more unique and interesting in a way. And a lot of times he did use fairy lights for that, like he would use them as leading lines or something. They weren't just thrown into the picture haphazardly. He put these in with a purpose. So I've seen him do something like leading lines up to the subject, or to create a more mystical feel around them. It has a purpose. But I've seen him use a lot of other props and stuff, like he'll use flowers, dust. I've seen him use just water and a bunch of other stuff just to make his photos a lot better. Something that's really important that Brandon Woelfel will do is that you put a concept in your mind before you shoot. I know this probably doesn't need to be said to a lot of people. Sometimes you forget, like some people will just go and shoot with no concept in mind, and then you just get barely anything to work with. But the way he shoots is that he has a concept in mind, and then he takes the proper steps to enact that. Whether that's going to the thrift store to buy the outfit that he wants, or getting the prop that he needs, or just going out on the trip and going to the location that he's seen. Like, it's small things, and this may seem like it's rudimentary, but it's something that a lot of photographers don't actually do a lot, and they just go out and shoot, and then it's kind of just nothing there, I guess. So the concept is in his head, and then he goes out to shoot to enact the concept that he has. So how does Brandon Woelfel shoot? Well, I've been watching him and his behind the scenes for a while, and I've watched all his videos. I've compiled this all in this one video so I can show you. A small detail you'll figure out if you start watching a lot of his behind the scenes is he's always down on the low to the ground and looking up at his model from far away. Especially in his full body shoots, he's always looking down and he's looking just slightly up. It's not like a 45-degree angle where he has this dramatic view, but it's just this slight little bit of him just looking a little bit up at his model that gets him this viewpoint. And he does this through almost all of his photos, except maybe some of his close-up shots, but almost all of his photos on his feed is just slightly below the model, and it stays consistent, and that's always important. Speaking of consistency, Brandon shoots all of his photos in landscape mode. Very rarely does he ever do portrait mode, and I think he's done portrait maybe a few times when doing like a wallpaper or something, but almost all the time it's just straight landscape, and it's consistent throughout his entire feed. Another way that Brandon Woelfel keeps his photos consistent is that he shoots outside a lot of the time. This isn't always true, but when he does shoot outside, he shoots around the same time. That's blue hour. Almost every day he does it is almost always at blue hour, which also gives him that similar look through all of his photos, and that's really important to have a consistent theme. You don't have to have the same colors in every photo, but having something that stays consistent can help your feed out a lot and improve your editing process and speed up a lot of other things. So that is another thing he does. Speaking of the gear that Brandon Woelfel uses, he uses a Nikon camera and lenses, and he shoots always wide open. He always has like a 1.4 lens he uses in all of his photos, and it's usually like from a 35, mostly the 85 is usually what I see him using, or more, but you can shoot anywhere between 35 and 85 and get what you really want. The closer you shoot like an 85 will probably give you the best similar looking results if that's what you really want to do. And with that, I'm gonna get into the actual editing section here. Alright guys, so now we're into the actual editing process. What I'm gonna do is do one in Lightroom and then one in Photoshop. The one in Lightroom is going to be this one. It's going to be a more fairy lights and neon kind of look that Brandon Woelfel goes for. The second one is going to be more of a natural outdoors look with a flower prop. This photo uses a prism, and that's how you get this nice reflection right here, and then has fairy lights right here to get this. This is going to be our after, so our reference, and this is the active photo that I'll be editing on. So let's get started in editing this. I'm going to start with my tones. We can see that my active photo is underexposed. Normally you'd want to underexpose, but this photo is just a little too underexposed. So to give you a reference, when you do shoot like this, you kind of want it to be more like this. That's probably perfectly underexposed, I guess is the way to put it. But if you do it underexposed, you retain more data. That's why people usually shoot just slightly underexposed. I'm going to bring this up to 1.85, and that's basically right where I want that to be. Contrast, I'm going to take down, so we go -12. For the rest of this, I'm going to type these in, and then I'm going to explain after. So -69 for highlights. Shadows is +48, so I'm bringing those up. Whites, bringing it up by 26. And then blacks, I'm also going to bring up. The reason I choose these settings for this is I want everything to be a little brighter, and I want to still have my detail in the dark spots. So I want to have everything be clear, so nothing is too dark in the photo, so you can always see something. And for the presence section, this looks just a little vibrant, so I'm going to take it down, and I'm going to actually desaturate this just a little bit. I want this to look like it's at night, so I don't want it to be too warm. I still want those cool blue colors that I would get at night. So desaturating a little bit can help have that look of nighttime. So we're going onto the tone curve now. The lighting is actually pretty good, so I don't really want to change it too much. What I'm going to do is bring the shadows up just a little bit. It gives it that little bit of that more mysterious feel, and also has that like film look. You'll see that happen a lot. Bring up the mid-tones, and then just a very, very slight S-curve. Not a lot. You don't want to do too much to it. So now we're going to hue, saturation, luminance. I'm just going to type these in, and I'll explain what I'm doing after this. So for reds, we're doing +15. Oranges, we're doing -16. Yellows, -56. Greens, -38. Aquas, -49. And blues, -15. Purples and magentas, I'm not going to actually touch. There is none in this photo really that does anything significant, so I'm going to leave those just alone at 0. Basically what I'm doing here is I'm making everything a little bit more on one side. So notice how I'm making everything just a little more orange. So the yellow's more towards orange, the red's slightly towards orange, and I want this right here. You really want to go for that like teal and orange color a little bit, and this retains all of her skin tone. I've also preserved her skin tone into something that looks actually natural still, which is really nice. With these photos, you can stray away just a little bit from skin tones, just from the nature of what they are, because usually you'll have this harsh light of colors on it doing neon sometimes, but if you can, I always try to like retain all skin tones when you can. Saturation, again, I'm just going to run through it real quick, and I'm going to explain what I'm doing after. So reds are -24, oranges are going to be -7, yellow is -31, green is -53, aquas bringing up a little bit to +13, and blues -11. What I'm really trying to do is make it so that it looks like it's nighttime in this photo. So I'm trying to preserve all the colors and also desaturating it just to give that little bit of a more mysterious vibe to it. I'll go through luminance real quick. The reds are -20, oranges are at -11, yellow is going to be +9, green is going to be -16, aqua is going to go up to 13, and blues are -11. As you can see, our strongest colors are the greens that are right here, and our blues, which are considered the lighting for our subject. Basically, the main thing I was trying to do was create these into something a little more complementary to each other. I'm going to finish my color grading by going to calibration. For a lot of Brandon Woelfel's neon portraits, some people will start with calibration. This will give you the most exaggerated look, but you have to be really careful with how you do this, because by switching one of these things, even if you're switching like your blues, you can destroy your skin tones because it changes everything so drastically. So the settings I use for this is I take the reds up to 29, and I'll add 24 saturation. I'll bring the greens up to 35, and I'll take the saturation of all the greens down by 10, and the blues I'll leave alone, but I'm going to desaturate that by 10. So that's pretty good. This is right where I want this, and we're almost done. The last thing I'm going to do is add my highlights and shadows. A good rule of thumb for this is that less is usually more. So just by adding just a little bit helps this photo out significantly. So for highlights, I'm going to take with a 39, and that's going to be an orange color. And then the saturation, I'm just going to put at 4, just something really small. And then for the shadows, I'm going to go do a blue aqua color, and then I'm going to bring that up to 12. And that gives us a lot closer to the look we're looking for, and this has this balanced out. So my last step is the white balance. When it started out, I thought it looked great, but when you change a lot of these settings around, sometimes it can mess with your balance a little bit. So I'm actually going to go back into this and change that really quickly. I'm going to take temperature down to about 65-24. And then take the tint down just a little bit to, let's say, 43. And then that's pretty close to how I have that edited. And this is a lot more reminiscent of his older style, so you might not get the same results. The thing about presets is they don't always look good on every single photo. For this photo, this is going to look amazing, but on a lot of other photos, this can make a photo look absolutely terrible. But for a lot of neon signs and stuff, and if you have similar colors, it's going to make your photos look great. That's how I edit like Brandon Woelfel in his neon style. Alright guys, this is the next photo I'm going to be teaching you how to edit. This is also shot on a Nikon D3400 with a 50mm 1.8 lens. This photo represents how Brandon Woelfel edits a lot of his nature shots that don't have anything to do with neon in it. The basic photo is this. In order to save time, I'm going to skip the basic color grade, and this will be our product after just the color grading is going to be. A few tips to get a similar style to what this is to keep it somewhat dark and keeping it moody as well. I recommend it doing low contrast and having it basically perfectly exposed, and you can do a little under or over, and that kind of can depend on your style, and it works either way. Something else that's important is to choose a color you want to stick with. I decided I have these greens over here that I like, and also these reds that I'm going to stick with just these two colors, and this also works the reds here in the flower that she's holding. I've done a little more color grading in Photoshop again. I basically made the colors more vibrant and them stand out more, and made them just a little bit darker. So what I've decided to emphasize in this photo is these two colors, and how I'm going to do that is by using gradients. I've already done the work here, and I'm just going to explain how to do it in order to save time since this video is already running a little long. So what you want to do is you click right down here, and you're going to select gradient, and then this gradient fill window will pop up. What you want to do is select this, then down here, double click here, and you can sample from anywhere in here, and I just sampled one of these pink colors already. Make sure angle set at 0, it defaults going up, and I increase the scale to 122, give it less of a hard line so it's a little more softer to see. And you'll click OK. It'll look a little more harsh to begin with. When you do that, it's going to look like this. What you're going to do is select screen, and you're going to take your opacity down to whatever feels comfortable. I took mine down to 10, and that still does a significant difference on the side. You can definitely tell that there's a little something extra there. The same with the other side. I set the screen color from one of the darker parts of here, and then I just made sure the angle is set the other side, and then I would change your scale to 120 again. And then don't forget, change your opacity to 15, and then make it to screen. Sometimes overlay works, and then sometimes you can even just use color. It depends on your personal preference. Either one can be fine depending on what you're going for. But I feel like screen gives it a little bit of a brighter look. This photo looks good with the gradients I've already put in place, but what I'm wanting to do is give the photo an extra little bit of oomph, a little bit of like brightness and happiness to the picture, even though I already know it's dark and moody. So what this layer is this is like a fill layer. This gives this kind of one tone that's going to go over the whole image. I will take this off the face just a little bit though, just to bring a little more attention into her face. So I'm just going to do this from scratch. I'm going to show you how to do it. So start a new layer and use your actual paint bucket tool. You're going to pick a color. I've already selected my color from here, and what you want is something bright to fill the picture in a little bit. So you want to make sure you get the higher end. Then you're going to fill this with this bright pink color, and what you're going to do is change the blending mode to soft light, and that looks pretty good. And definitely you're going to have to bring down the opacity though, and this gives you that little bit of extra something in the photo. I recommend making a layer mask, and then painting out her face. Black paints out. Just give her face a little more focus in. That looks really good, just like that. And that is how I quickly edit like Brandon Woelfel. Hi guys, thanks for watching. If you notice things look a little different back here, it's because I forgot to record my outro. So here's your outro. I appreciate you guys watching. If you learned anything, which I really hope so, comment down below. If you have anything else that you want to add or have any questions, please let me know. I'll definitely answer too. Please like and subscribe. I will be posting more regularly on YouTube, so if you'd like to see more of my work, follow my Instagram page. I post there fairly frequently, and this is all my newest work, and I'm always updating it. Hope you guys learned something. Thanks again, guys. Peace.